time to stay focused. Rub elbows with everybody so people can stop calling you weird. Why are you so antisocial? Because I'm trying to get it. Why are you out there practicing in the hot sun when ain't nobody else out there? Because I'm trying to get it. Why are you not clubbing? Like every time I text you and invite you to go do something fun and cool, you always studying? Because I'm trying to get it.
All of us, at some time or another, have agonized over making a decision. And also there are a lot of small decisions that we don't make, that they tax our minds, they drain our energy. They create a lot of anxiety and nervousness because we don't take care of it. We decide not to decide, which is a decision. Deciding to decide, to act, is a major, major challenge for all of us.
How many of you know that we live in a day and age right now where everybody has their eyes set on getting there? We all have a purpose, we all have a mission. Hopefully you're in this room today, hopefully you have a vision for your life. But many times on our way to the vision, on our way to the purpose, we discount the places along the way.
Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you ask God for. You just got to quit tripping while you're in the process, because the process is necessary. You may not see it now, but when he gets you on the other side of it, you're going to see exactly why it went that way, and you're going to be okay with it.
Ask yourself the question, what would your life be like? What would your life look like if you decided not to care what people thought of you?
Listen at this. It's not just that people step over you when you're in that acorn stage. Sometimes you step over you because you're so busy trying to compete with the trees that you haven't gone through the process of the acorn. Give it some time. Give it some water. Give it some focus, and you'll reap a harvest.
People who are leaders always have a great dream. They're thinking ahead. They're planning ahead. It's a dream that drives you. It affects how you talk. It affects how you think. It affects how you live. And don't be a dream killer. You see, George Bernard Shaw said, listen to this, dream of things that never were and ask, why not?
There's some people who just go through life mechanically. All right, they go to school, they get a degree, they come out, they apply for a bunch of jobs, and hey, this job said yes, so I guess I'll do this one. You know, they're in relationships and it's not perfect. In fact, it's not even good. It's bad. And, you know, they're thinking to themselves, well, hey, it's not great, it's not good, but, you know, at least I'm not alone. So I guess I'll stick around here anyway. You know, they never stop to ask themselves, what else is in me? And that's why I do it. That's why I ask that question. What else is in you?
It's not what it's going to be, but it's not what it used to be. Until you can clap for the seedling, you will never see the tree.
No more distractions. The older we get, the more we realize we're not going to be here forever. Life is flying by. When you realize how fast time is going, it should bring a sense of urgency, a sense of focus. Your assignment has an expiration date. Your time on this earth is not unlimited.
It's not the blowing of the wind that determines your fortune. It's the set of the sail. With a couple of little things about setting the sail of your thinking that might drastically give you multiplied more benefit the next 3 years than you've gotten in the last 2. So it's not what happens. What happens happens to everybody.
This is a time for you to look at your life, look at where you want to go, look at what you want to do. Let me warn you, don't look at where you are. Don't spend time talking about what has happened to you. Hold a vision of yourself being successful in the future with whatever you do. That's what you want to do, because your thoughts have magnetic power. Where focus goes, energy, persistence, and determination flows.
You still got work to do. Stay on that basketball court. Stay on that football field. Fuck all the homies texting and calling and trying to make you feel bad about being so focused. It's grind season, homie. It's not about today. It's about the future. You do the work now, And all of the shit that you could ever want to do for your family, your kids, your loved ones, it's all going to be on a whole nother stratosphere.
The trick is to make the decision, give it everything we've got, and stay with it until one of two things happen. One, you decide you've definitely made the right decision, or two, that you've made the wrong decision. If it's the second, you've just got to try again. But behind your decision, remind yourself that it's better to be outstanding at one thing than to be mediocre in a dozen or so.
Take a brave look at your life. Look at your life right now where it is. As you begin to look out on the future, look out on this year, let's take personal inventory. What has brought you here? As you begin to look at the things that took place this past year, did you get out of it what you wanted? Did you achieve the goals that you set out to achieve? Are there any people that might be some dead weight that you need to think about unloading?
We fight too many battles that don't matter. They're talking about me, I'm gonna go straighten them out. After you straighten them out, someone else will start talking. Nobody talks about people that aren't doing anything. Nobody tries to discredit someone that doesn't have any influence. The reason they're talking about you is because you're a difference maker. You're a world changer.
Successful people use no's as a reason to come back stronger, to hit harder, all right, and to be more creative. That's what they do with it. That's why they come back harder, because they've heard a bunch of no's. The people who admire, who you look up to, who you've heard about, a lot of these people have heard no's multiple times, and they've had to come back and reinvent themselves and discover new energy. That's the value of a no. It opens up more doors than yeses.
You have to find a dream that's so big that it overwhelms all of your fears and causes you to never give up. Now, you're going to think about quitting no matter what you do. I mean, I've thought about it many times, but I always dreamed of buying my mother and father a real house.
So the key is part-time. The magic and the attraction of part-time gives you a classic invitation for somebody to listen to what you're doing that's changing your life. And it's not just necessarily the money that changes your life. It's what you do with the money. It's the change of lifestyle.
So it's critical that you upgrade identity with your new visions and goals. You need to stop what's no longer needed. In other words, there were behaviors and thoughts you've had in the past that were needed to produce the results you currently have. But you need to stop what's no longer needed. Maybe you're continuing a behavior in your life that's no longer needed, or a worry that at one time was needed but no longer is.
You can live a larger life. Don't just focus on what's going on now. Don't focus on what you have lost. Don't focus on you've lost your job or been evicted or been foreclosed on. Focus on where you are going. To a new life, that God is going to do a new thing with you. How? I don't know. How is none of your business. You do what you can do, God will do what you can't do.
Change the thoughts, beliefs, concepts, and value we hold to ourselves. I'm telling you, the overall key to changing the external conditions of your life is changing that internal thermostat setting. Just being aware that you need to alter the thermostat is a life-changing, liberating condition.
In what you've done with your life thus far, is it giving you what you want? When you look toward the future, when you look at all that's going on out here, is there some place within yourself you say, hey, I know I need to be out there in that arena. I know I can do more than what I've been doing. Is that something that you begin to look at within yourself?
Narrow is the gate, and broad is the way, but it leads to destruction. Small is the gate, and narrow is the way, but it leads to life. Don't focus on the narrow, narrow the focus.
What I discovered about focusing in on a goal, that the moment that you focus in on what you want to do, that's when you begin to have energy to do it. A distracted person lacks energy. And when they get to the thing they need to be focusing in on, they don't have the energy to give.
We need to face the fact that in the world of tomorrow, jobs as we know them today will be radically different or eliminated entirely. So then, what can we do about it? We can learn. If we refuse to learn, if we insist upon acting like machines, we will find ourselves idle tomorrow.
Learn to work with the people who deserve it, not the people who need it. You must be like life itself, respond to deserve, not to need. It doesn't say if you need a harvest, you'll have a harvest. It's not what it says. It says if you plant, chances are good you'll have a harvest. If you plant, you will reap. Not if you need, you will reap.
There are people who won't help you because they know too much about you. And that vision they have of you, they can't see you doing better. They can't see you achieving and living a larger life. And that's okay. Don't try and convince them. That's a full-time job, convincing yourself. Somebody asked me, what's the most difficult thing that you've done? I said, the most difficult thing I've ever done, and it took me years to do it, was to believe that I could do it.
Regulating your sleep and your breakfast eating habits in particular can be a very effective way of regulating your mood and increasing your capacity to concentrate. Regulate your habits. Try to get up at approximately the same time each morning. Your circadian rhythms operate more fluidly and your mood is likely to be regulated better if there's islands of stability in your daily routines.
You know, most of us in life, we work so hard for things. We think life's going to be a certain way, but as you're going to discover, life is never a straight line. You know, we're taught that. We think line is just, I'm going to go from here to there. But if you look in nature, you never see a straight line in real nature. If it's a straight line, a human built it. And so it's a process of evolving, of growing, dropping back, growing, dropping back. And challenges are what really grow us. You know, your life is a great story. You know, every person's life is a story.
I say to people, you got to participate in your own rescue. You've got to retool yourself.
Let me tell you something. Life can be long. You bury your dreams, you quit this, life gets long. See, time's relative. 2 minutes of you being with your sweetie, doing whatever you like to do with them, that can go by quick, right? What's about the last 2 minutes on a treadmill? Does that not seem like it goes by for like 4 hours, right? So if you're enjoying it, it's short. If it's painful, it's long. Life can be long. See, there's a book being written about your life, isn't there? Someone somewhere's taking inventory of your life. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10. You write your own book. And at any moment in your life, you can decide that you want to make this the new chapter. You're literally in your life, you can turn the page. And those previous chapters are your old book. It's like Old Testament, New Testament. Old story, new story. They're connected, they're related, but you can flip the page and you can have a whole new story. If you decide right now, I am literally turning, my breakthrough is I turn the page, and in this second, I start to write the best chapters of my life.
There are no skill sets in community colleges today, for the most part, that are going to prepare you for the economy or a job that's there. So what is that going to do? You're just going to waste more money, more time. We need to retool ourselves. The government's not going to do it for you. And a great leader in a company is retraining their people all the time. The training never stops, because that is the innovative, creative marketing edge, is your own people. I think you have to self-educate. I mean, I'm an example of that myself. You have to say,
what's an area that I want to become masterful in, because dabblers will never have any financial freedom. You know, if you're going to run a company, you got to find what is your niche. What is it you're going to do better than anybody else? Every one of us individuals have to say that and then say, now, where do I get that education? In the world that we live in today with the internet, where there's education from all over the world, from MIT, from Harvard, online, and there are people you can go to work for who you could become a mentee of. There's just so many approaches, but you can't have a standard education and expect to have an extraordinary life. It's not going to happen. The one breakthrough for all leaders is constant, never-ending improvement. And that means educating yourself and continuing to develop even greater emotional mastery, because that's what affects whether you execute or not.
The most beautiful thing about having dreams is that it's in your hands how big your dreams become. And this film taught me that. I've come here only to introduce you to the idea of saying that no one can tell you that your dream is too small, or your dream cannot come true, or your dream cannot be allowed because you're a girl, because you're a boy, because you look a certain way, or because you come from a certain place. I'm not even Northeastern and I'm playing Mary Com. I mean, who would have thought that? I am extremely honored to be sitting in front of all of you wonderful, wonderful, really smart people and talking to you about my dream, which came true doing this film. Don't be afraid to dream, guys, because they do come true. They really do.
The key to being a loser.
Yeah, very important.
Is not loving and appreciating yourself.
Okay.
And allowing what other people think of you become more important to you than what you think of yourself.
Wow. It's a new advice. Thank you.
Yeah. That we were born to do something. You're here to do a work. The two most important moments in our lives, it's been said, the day that we're born and the day that we realize why we're born. And if you don't know, if you want to live a life of misery, don't try and find out. But if you want to live a life that has meaning and value and a sense of direction, spend as much time as you possibly can to answer the question, why am I here? And not
so you will know yourself a lot of time.
Yes, and don't ask what is the meaning of life. Ask what is the meaning of my life? What am I supposed to do? What is this work that I was chosen, that God saw something in you, and you were chosen 1 out of 400 million sperm. He saw something in David. What was it that he saw? He saw something in Judy. He saw something in Les. There was something that caused us to be here. And I believe there's a work for us to do. There's something that if we don't do it, that the world will be deprived. And finding out what that something is, that element, the element is when what you love to do and what you were born to do come together that will allow you to show up in life in a bigger way.
I think there's a lot of roads to the mountaintop. I have the perspective that I have because that was my journey. And I had to start figuring out how to walk in the darkness, because that's kind of what it's like.
What darkness? What do you mean?
Like, meaning when you're caught in this psychocybernetic loop.
Can you define psychocybernetics?
Yeah, so it's this idea that what you believe will dictate your thoughts on a moment-by-moment basis. So if you believe that, money's hard to make, as a simple example, you're not going to have ideas or thoughts around money that would be lending to making it easily, right? And so what you believe dictates what you think. You can't get like an apple from an orange tree. And what you think you then experience is an emotion, right? And then that emotion then dictates what actions you do or do not take. And they're always aligned, right? Your beliefs dictate your thoughts, dictate your emotions, dictate your actions, which produce your results. And your results, when you look at them, then just reinforce the original belief. And so we're caught in that construct, right? But the linchpin is the belief system. So the question is, how do I actually change what I believe? If my beliefs really do dictate my destiny, right? Which is, I'm not the only person suggesting that. The question becomes, how do I change my beliefs? And in that is an inherent challenge, because by definition, beliefs are that which are true, right, for us. And so then the question is, how do we break out of this? My way of breaking out of it was at one point to understand, and I'll start to kind of walk you through the structure of it, to understand that there were only two states of emotional beingness that I could be in at any given point in time. I would either be in a powerful state of being, states like joy, curiosity, excitement, calm, peace, passion, or I would be in a primal state of being, boredom, anger, frustration, some form of fear. I'm always in one of those two states, and I'm never in two states at one time. Those map beautifully to the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, right? So in any moment, we're either in fight or flight, or we're in rest and relaxation. Through my journey, what I realized was the only cause of that switch to be flipped was my own thinking. The meaning that I was giving the experience. The experience itself wasn't dictating whether I was in a primal state or a powerful state, whether I was in sympathetic fight or flight or parasympathetic rest and restoration or relaxation. It was the meaning I was giving the experience. And so that meant that all of my personal suffering was within my own control. I needed to start controlling the meaning I was giving the experiences of life.
Tell people your concept of the paddle.
Well, there's a paddle for everybody's ass. We all know that. And every day you just get up, and I don't fear anything, but I worry about everything. And the day you stop worrying in good times, the paddle will get your behind. And so as great as things are in life, I know you're only a few steps or a few incidents away from something bad happening. You can never forget it.
Did you have fear as a kid, and you just got into enough business scuffles that you figured your way through things, or have you always been fearless?
I'm pretty fearless, but I do worry about everything. But, you know, once again, you know, the book, and this is why Harper's asked me to write the book, because of all my Tillmanisms, you got to know what you know and what you don't know. And I knew that I understood business. Now, don't ask me to, you know, go win an Emmy. I took guitar lessons for 4 years, and I still struggle playing a guitar. I can't draw a stick person very good, but I knew that I understood business. So I know what I know, and I know how to do due diligence on a deal. I don't worry about making a bad deal, because I feel like that's what I know. So no fear when it comes to that.
When did you realize in Chicago or Baltimore that you actually had a skill as an interviewer that was really better than anybody else's? And where do you think that skill came from?
I never thought it was better than anybody else's. What I do think I have that is really uniquely my own is my ability to connect to the audience. Because my skill comes not from my interviewing ability, my skill comes from my listening ability, and my skill comes from me knowing fundamentally inside myself that I am no different than the audience. So what gave me the power in the seat and the power with the microphone was I always saw myself as the surrogate for the audience. So I would ask people questions that I would not normally ask. I mean, I asked a really embarrassing question once, not because I wanted to know the answer, but because I thought the audience did. And then I thought, I'm not going to ask what the audience wants the next time. And when I get in that situation, I put myself in a bad situation. I asked Sally Field when she was dating Burt Reynolds. I asked, remember this, Gail? I asked Sally Field, did Burt sleep with his toupee on?
What was the answer, or the question?
And I would never do that today. I wouldn't do it because I was doing it because I was getting pushed by the producers like, people want to know, people want to know. So I was thinking I was doing it on behalf of the audience. She shut down, and I could see that it embarrassed her, and I never got another thing from her. So I thought, okay, that was wrong. I learned from that.
as you begin to look at yourself, you got to redefine yourself. Who are you right now? And who must you become in order to create what you want? What has to change about you? What is it that you're doing right now that would be a liability for you? As you begin to look toward the future and take inventory of yourself, what is it about you right now that you've got to leave this behind because this no longer fits? Looking at where you want to go and the kind of person that you must become, the kind of standards that you have for you. What is it that you must do differently? Repeat out to me, please. If you want to keep on getting what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. See, that doesn't take an Einstein for that one. All right? It makes sense unless you change your pattern, unless you change the way you're thinking, unless you change your behavior, you're going to continue to produce the results in your life. See, all of us are winners, but some of us are producing results that we don't want. And so all you have to do is look at your game plan, look at your strategy. How is it that you have been being? What is it that you've been doing to produce this? So you're the director, you're the producer, you're writing the script, you're the star of your life. And as you begin to look at your life, you can decide whether or not it's a smash or whether or not it's a flop. That's in your hands. Look at your life, look at where you want to go. Don't worry about your circumstances. Don't worry about your age. I have a friend who's up in age, over 70, and she wanted to build a multi-million-dollar complex. The name is Dr. Johnny Coleman. Lenders and bankers say, you can't do that, you're too old. She ignored them. That building now stands, ladies and gentlemen, a multi-million-dollar structure. But there are a lot of people who would have listened to that. There are a lot of people that would not have even gotten to that point. They would have talked themselves out of even going down to the bank to ask for it, because they've already said no to themselves. See, it's time now. If you want to make this your decade, you've got to start saying yes to your life. You've got to start saying yes to your dreams, yes to your unfolding future, yes to your potential, as opposed to saying no. See, 87% of our self-talk is negative. So you've got to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to say yes to your dreams.
Take full responsibility for what happens to you. It's one of the highest forms of human maturity, accepting full responsibility. It's the day you know you've passed from childhood to adulthood, the day you accept full responsibility. And another note, learn to reap in the fall without apology. Without apology if you do well, and without complaint if you don't. That's maturity. I used to have that long list of reasons why I wasn't doing well. To explain. You got to explain, right? Otherwise you're going to look bad. I used to have this funny list called Reasons for Not Looking Good. I used to blame the government. I mean, you can believe that or not. It was at the top of my list. I had a lecture second to none. The government. That was on my list. I used to blame taxes. Look what you got left after they take everything. And they expect you to do well. That was on my list there. Prices, that one's easy, right? You walk into the supermarket with $20, come out with a little half bag. So I had that on the list. I used to blame the weather. I blamed the traffic. I used to blame my car. I blamed the manufacturers. I used to blame the company. I blamed company policy. I used to blame the training program. I blame my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blame my cynical neighbors. They're just selfish, looking out for themselves. Won't loan you money? They were on my list. I used to blame the economy. I blamed the community. That's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was good. I'll never forget one day, Mr. Chef was very kind, but he was also very blunt. And this was no exception. And I'm glad he was blunt. There's a lot of things I'd have missed if he hadn't have been blunt. One day, with sort of a curious look on his face, he said, "Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me, how come you haven't done well up until now?" Excellent question. I thought, well, so I won't look too bad, I'll go through my list. And this list I just gave you, I put that on him. And he was very patient. He let me go through the whole thing, the government, the weather. I went through this whole thing. When I finished, he looked my list over very carefully. He said, "Mr. Rohn, big problem with your list. You ain't on it." How brilliant. When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned very quickly to tear up my list, reasons for not doing well, and I threw it away. And I got me a fresh piece of paper. And I put one word on it. Me. There's a black heritage spiritual that says it's not.
You begin to look at yourself, you got to redefine yourself. Who are you right now? And who must you become in order to create what you want? What has to change about you? What is it that you're doing right now that would be a liability for you? As you begin to look toward the future and take inventory of yourself, what is it about you right now that you've got to leave this behind because this no longer fits? Looking at where you want to go and the kind of person that you must become, the kind of standards that you have for you. What is it that you must do differently? Repeat out to me, please. If you want to keep on getting what you're getting, keep on doing what you're doing. See, that doesn't take an Einstein for them. All right? It makes sense unless you change your pattern, unless you change the way you're thinking, unless you change your behavior, you're going to continue to produce the results in your life. See, all of us are winners, but some of us are producing results that we don't want. And so all you have to do is look at your game plan, look at your strategy. How is it that you have been being? What is it that you've been doing to produce this? So you're the director, you're the producer, you're writing the script, you're the star of your life. And as you begin to look at your life, you can decide whether or not it's a smash or whether or not it's a flop. That's in your hands. Look at your life, look at where you want to go. Don't worry about your circumstances. Don't worry about your age. I have a friend who's up in age, over 70, and she wanted to build a multi-million-dollar complex. The name is Dr. Johnny Coleman. Lenders and bankers say, "You can't do that, you're too old." She ignored them. That building now stands, ladies and gentlemen, a multi-million-dollar structure. But there are a lot of people who would have listened to that. There are a lot of people that would not have even gotten to that point. They would have talked themselves out of even going down to the bank to ask for it, because they've already said no to themselves. See, it's time now. If you want to make this your decade, you've got to start saying yes to your life. You've got to start saying yes to your dreams, yes to your unfolding future, yes to your potential, as opposed to saying no. See, 87% of our self-talk is negative. So you've got to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to say yes to your dreams.
Take full responsibility for what happens to you. It's one of the highest forms of human maturity, accepting full responsibility. It's the day you know you've passed from childhood to adulthood, the day you accept full responsibility. And another note, learn to reap in the fall without apology. Without apology if you do well, and without complaint if you don't. That's maturity. I used to have that long list of reasons why I wasn't doing well. To explain. You've got to explain, right? Otherwise you're going to look bad. I used to have this funny list called Reasons for Not Looking Good. I used to blame the government. I mean, you can believe that or not. It was at the top of my list. I had a lecture second to none. The government. That was on my list. I used to blame taxes. Look what you got left after they take everything. And they expect you to do well. That was on my list then. Prices, that one's easy, right? You walk into the supermarket with $20, come out with a little half bag. So I had that on the list. I used to blame the weather. I blamed the traffic. I used to blame my car. I blamed the manufacturers. I used to blame the company. I blamed company policy. I used to blame the training program. I blame my negative relatives. They were always putting me down. I blame my cynical neighbors. They're just selfish, looking out for themselves. Won't loan you money? They were on the list. I used to blame the economy. I blamed the community. That's a pretty good list for not doing well, isn't it? I thought it was good. I'll never forget one day. Mr. Schoaf was very kind, but he was also very blunt. And this was no exception. And I'm glad he was blunt. There's a lot of things I'd have missed if he hadn't have been blunt. One day, with sort of a curious look on his face, he said, "Jim, just out of curiosity, tell me, how come you haven't done well up until now?" Excellent question. I thought, well, so I won't look too bad, I'll go through my list. And this list I just gave you, I put that on him. And he was very patient. He let me go through the whole thing, the government, the weather. I went through this whole thing. When I finished, he looked my list over very carefully. He said, "Mr. Rohn, big problem with your list. You ain't on it." How brilliant. When I went to work for him a few months later, I learned very quickly to tear up my list, reasons for not doing well, and I threw it away. And I got me a fresh piece of paper. And I put one word on it. Me. There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says it's not.
The one way to coach your mind from depression is with gratitude. Every time I feel myself not starting to feel some kind of way, just take a paper and pencil out. Just start writing down everything you have to be grateful for. Whatever it is. Your health, you can walk, you can still see, you have a car, may not be the one you want. I have a place to live. I ate today. I see a way that I can eat tomorrow. I got a friend that I can call and share my troubles with. And just be real detailed with it. You would be stunned how long you'll be writing. Now, let me tell you what happens. Once gratitude erases all negativity, because there's no room now for negativity. It's not a magic trick. Joy and depression cannot reside in the same space. Those two things cannot exist at the same time. Also, what it does, it changes your focus from what you don't have to what you do have. Gratitude changes your perception. Your perception changes your existence. That's all you're trying to do. That's all you're trying to do. After you've done that, here's what I want you to do. Write a list after you make this list of everything you're grateful for. I want you to read this list every morning you wake up of everything you're grateful for. After you've thanked him for all this stuff, I want you to take another piece of paper. I want you to write on this piece of paper everything you want. Everything you want. Now what he gonna do is he gonna tie them two lists together. So now since you showing me all this gratitude for what I've already done for you, remember I said the more grateful you are, the more stuff he'll give you to be grateful for? He gonna take this other list you got and he gonna start putting it on this side. Then he gonna take some more stuff and gonna put on this side. He'll take some more stuff and put on this side. I'm telling you. Let me tell y'all something. If y'all don't think that works, I wish you would try it. Listen to me. I have no other explanation for my life. I do it every single day. And you know what he does? Slowly but surely, he takes this list and he starts taking items and putting it on the grateful list. He has done it for me like that for years and years and years. He did it for me without education. He did it for me when I lost my mom and daddy, my brother, my best friend. He did it for me when they canceled my TV shows. He keeps taking stuff off my want list and putting it on my grateful for list. If you do them things right there, you'll change your whole life.
You concentrate on what you have, you will always end up having more, even if it's just $2. If you focus on what you don't have, you will never, ever, ever have enough. So 16 years ago, I started a gratitude journal, and I will have to say, it was the single most important thing I believe I've ever done. So every day, for years now, I've written down 5 things to be grateful for. And you have to write them down. It's very different than just saying, oh, I'm grateful for today. You have to physically write them down because there's power in the words. Even simple things like fresh flowers or somebody holding the door open for me. So when you wake up in the morning and you consciously look for things to be thankful for, what happens is if you go through the day thinking about the 5 things that you're going to do in the evening, you are more alive and receptive to the goodness that comes in your life. Because sometimes it is as simple as somebody holding the door. So when you allow yourself to feel gratitude in the present moment, in the now, what I promise you is that the spiritual dimension of your life begins to change. It opens up, it expands, and you just grow with it. That is the truth. If I ever spoke the truth in my life, if you want to change your state of being, start to be grateful.
The more you're grateful for, the more God will give you to be grateful for. Instead of complaining about what's going on, man, I got to go to work today. Man, I got these kids. Remember when you wanted a job? Remember when you wanted a baby? You know what I learned? You can't cry about what's on your plate when your whole goal was to eat. The moment you start showing God more gratitude, he'll give you more stuff. What he do is, he's not gonna keep giving you stuff if what you got you can't handle already. You kill more blessings by not being grateful. That's the #1 blessing blocker, lack of gratitude.
I had a really good friend of mine. I went to lunch and he said, I don't know who this guy is here. And he goes, let me ask you a question. Right now, what are you grateful for? And at the lunch, I said, nothing, brother. There's nothing good in my life right now. As I'm mouthing these words, 2 people walked in with an older man. Both of them clearly were fighting cancer somehow. Both walked by our table and gave me the warmest smile as a stranger. And he goes, that's pretty freaking pathetic. You can't find anything in your life to be grateful for right now? Because if you can find things to be grateful for in that space, man, is your life going to be rich when there really are external things to be grateful for. And what happens is there's this reticular activating system in our brains. All of a sudden, all these things start to come into my awareness that I'm grateful for. I started to see things to be grateful for.
Choose to be happy in spite of life's challenges. Life changes every day. Sometimes things will be going your way. Sometimes it won't work so well. Sometimes you'll have your health, you're feeling good, and there's some things that can happen to you in life that can take all of that from you. Life always changes. But you can choose in the midst of all of this that's going on to be happy in spite of it. Viktor Frankl, he said the last of the human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Douglas Matlock has a poem I love. He said, sure, this world is full of trouble. Lord, I've had enough and double reason for complaint. Rain and storm have come to fret me. Skies are often gray. But say, ain't it fine today? What's the use of always keeping thinking of the past? Each must have his tribulation, water with his wine. Trouble? I've had mine, but today is fine. It may rain again tomorrow. It may rain But say, ain't it fine today? Ain't it fine today? Living in the moment, getting everything we can out of where we are in the moment where we are right now. The other thing is willingness to let people and things go, especially if they want to go. When they're no longer good for you, just let them go. Just to hold on tenaciously really doesn't make really good sense, all right? Next thing is face the truth about life and deal with it in order to have a fulfilling life, knowing that things are going to happen. Expect the unexpected. Everything that happens, use it for your upliftment. What can I get from this? How did I end up here? What's the blessing in this for me? And don't let it go until you get your blessing out of it, because there's a blessing there. There's something for you in everything that happens to you for you to learn from that experience. Analyze it, dissect it, take it apart, and then get what you need from that and move on. Here's something I encourage you to do. Whatever you do, do it in a consciousness of love, in spite of the circumstances. Emmett Fox said, love is absolutely invincible. No disease that enough love will not heal. No door that enough love will not open. No wall that enough love will not throw down. It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how great the mistake, a sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. And he ends it in a scripture that says, God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God. Whatever work you have to do it lovingly. Just decide to be more loving, more giving, more caring, more sensitive than you've ever been before. But what if you don't get it back? But don't count on it. Don't let someone else determine who you're going to be. Do it because that's who you are. Do it because it gives your life a sense of fulfillment and self-respect. Anybody can hate. Anybody can do that. Anybody can hold a grudge. But the real challenge about growth and moving into your greatness is about being who you are. I say, as you look at life, as you go toward your goals and your dreams, spring forth with a mighty faith to start the business that ought to be started by you, to make the difference in our society that ought to be made by you. How is it that I can make the contribution that I showed up to give? And one last step, I think, in the area of self-fulfillment, you must live in a spirit of gratitude. There's so many things, ladies and gentlemen, that we take for granted. There are a lot of things that we need to be thankful for. There are big things, there are little things. I'm thankful for my children. I'm thankful for the life that I live and for the people who have enriched my life.
You can't wait till you receive the promise. You have to thank God that the answer is on the way. Don't talk about how you feel. Say, thank you that I'm healthy. Thank you with long life you're satisfying me. In your finances, maybe you're struggling. All through the day, thank you that whatever I touch prospers and succeeds. Thank you that your favor surrounds me like a shield. When you thank God in advance for the answer, that's what keeps you encouraged. You're not going to stay determined if you're talking about how bad it is. God, you said you wanted me to be blessed, but my business is so slow. No, switch over into praise. Business may be slow, but Lord, I want to thank you that you prosper me even in a desert. Praise makes you strong. Praise keeps you moving forward. I'll thank God after business picks up, after I see the solution. So if you don't learn this principle to thank God in advance, you won't have the strength you need to wait for the promise.